1-800-TO-PRINT.com.
Stay true to yourself. You can do this how you want to do it, and somebody else is going to think that's awesome and want to do it that way too.
Vistaprint.com.
We saw it all unfold yesterday. Jodi Arias ended up just one vote away from death row. After 26 hours, the jury couldn't come to a unanimous decision. One juror out of the 12 refusing to vote in favor of the death penalty. Jury members say they tried to get the one death penalty holdout booted from the panel after she admitted that she watched what you see on your screen right here. She apparently was biased after she watched this Lifetime movie about the case. Dan Schorr, former prosecutor and managing director, that is, at Kroll. Dr. Woody is an organizational psychologist, and Paul Millis, trial attorney. Great to see you, gentlemen. Okay, I'm going to start with the lawyers. Paul, do you ask the jurors if they've seen any depictions of Jodi Arias in any other way besides seeing her potentially in the courtroom?
I would be surprised in this situation if it didn't happen, because there was a movie. Not every case and not every death penalty case has a movie that's made about the defendant. So in this situation, I would be surprised if that wasn't asked. And if it was asked and the person lied, then that might be grounds to see that that juror is removed. But it's very difficult to get a jury verdict overturned.
Well,
very difficult.
So apparently, Dan, on Tuesday, the other jurors did ask the judge to have this one juror removed because they apparently claimed that after she watched Dirty Little Secret, that she was biased.
Right, not only biased, but you have to be at least open to the death penalty to sit on a death penalty jury. And they were saying she wasn't even open to the possibility of a death penalty verdict. The problem is it's a bad precedent if you kick someone off the jury, because for a death penalty, it has to be unanimous. And imagine if 11 people could then vote off that other person and get a new person whenever they don't agree with that one person. That would really take away from the protections of the defendant. So, of course, that's not going to be allowed.
So, Dr. Woody, from a psychologist's point of view, can movies influence us? I mean, Lifetime movies, I know women like to sit down and watch these from time to time.
Movies absolutely influence you. Think about this. Have you ever cried at a movie? I mean, have you ever been emotionally moved watching a movie? Of course. But the thing here is that most movies are not reality, and even documentaries oftentimes miss the mark. And when you see something dramatized in front of you, especially, as I understand, there's a bit of a redemption angle in the movie, it's going to bias her towards how she feels about the, the defendant in this case.
So let me ask you this, Paul, because obviously all 12 jurors were asked the question about the death penalty.
Indeed.
I'm sure of it.
No question.
So if this juror lied about that, then what happens?
Well, it had to be juror fraud, and that's very, very difficult to prove. And whether she lied or not, I'm not quite sure they're going to necessarily be able to prove that. I'm sure whatever answer she gave was acceptable at the time. And under these circumstances, she's going to say continually, I had no problem with the death penalty. I just didn't want to give it in this particular instance. The fact is, all jurors speak afterwards. Some speak to the press, some speak to the lawyers, and the lawyers who lose a case generally are looking for angles to find juror fraud or something that took place that shouldn't have, but it seldom results in overthrow.
So it was interesting because when this came down, the judge did tell the jurors that they could speak, right? They could tell their stories, and that's how we're finding out about this. Is that unusual, or is that usually what happens? The gag order is lifted?
No, at the end of every trial, the judge tells the jurors you have the right to talk to whoever you want, but you don't have to if you don't want to. In this case, the jurors chose to talk, at least some of them, but not give their identity. If they want, they can give their identity. And often in the days and weeks following a big trial like this, you'll see people more openly talk to the media and do interviews.
Well, it's amazing to think that one little Lifetime movie was what saved Jodi Arias from the death penalty, but it appears to be a major part of this.
Indeed.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard.
New York's finest honoring a very special young lady from hundreds of miles away after what